People believe money is difficult because it is complex. That is not true. Money is difficult because it is intentionally abstracted. You are trained to use money, earn money, and spend money, but not to understand how it is created, how it circulates, or why debt dominates everything. This video is not motivational. It is not ideological. It is structural. We will explain money as it actually works. What money actually is. Money is not wealth. Money is not value. Money is not power. Money is a unit of account representing a claim on future production. In the United States, the dollar is defined by law, required for taxes, enforced by institutions, accepted by collective trust. When you earn money, you are not receiving value itself. You are receiving a token that allows you to command value later. This is why money is fundamentally forward-looking. It is about the future, not the present. If trust in the future collapses, money collapses with it. The structure of the U.S. monetary system. The U.S. monetary system operates in layers. At the top, we have the federal government. They define the currency. In the middle, the banking system, which creates most of the money. And at the base, households and businesses. They are the one using it. At the center of stability sits the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve sets the federal funds rate, controls liquidity conditions, stabilizes crises, but the Fed does not decide how much money exists day to day. Commercial banks do. This distinction is critical. How money is created. Most people believe that money is created when the government prints it. This idea is widespread, intuitive, and largely incorrect. In reality, in the United States, the vast majority of money is created by commercial banks, not by the government and not by the central bank. To understand this, we need to shift how we think about money itself. Money is not primarily a physical object. It is an accounting entry. When a commercial bank issues a loan, whether it is a mortgage, a business loan, or a personal line of credit, the bank does not take existing money from someone else and lend it to the borrower. Instead, the bank creates new money digitally. At the moment the loan is approved, two things happen simultaneously. First, the borrower receives a deposit in their bank account. Second, the bank records a loan asset on its balance sheet. No physical cash moves. No prior savings are required. This process is known as credit creation, and it is the core mechanism through which money enters the U.S. economy. Once money is created, it flows through predictable channels. It moves from banks into the economy, reaching household, businesses, and government entities. The primary routes include wages, which allow people to consume and invest, spending, which circulates money through goods and services, investment, which directs capital to productive ventures, taxes, which fund government programs, and debt repayment, which recycles money back to lenders. Money naturally flows toward areas of productivity, assets, and leverage. Those closest to the point of money creation, primarily banks, financial institutions, and large asset owners, receive it first, allowing them to benefit from its initial purchasing power. Those farther away in the economic chain, such as average households and small businesses, receive it later, after some of its value has already been absorbed or diluted through prior transactions. This sequential flow explains why inflation often feels unfair. Because money enters the system unevenly, price increases do not impact all participants equally. Those who access money later bear the brunt of reduced purchasing power, while those who received it early may have already invested or leveraged it. Understanding the movement of money clarifies why economic cycles exist. It reveals how monetary policy, such as interest rate adjustments, quantitative easing, or fiscal interventions, interacts with the flow of money, influencing spending, investment, and asset prices. Ultimately, while the paths money takes are predictable, their effects are asymmetrical, favoring those closest to creation and highlighting the structural dynamics at the heart of modern economies. Inflation. Inflation is often misunderstood. Most people think of it simply as rising prices, but it is fundamentally about money losing its purchasing power over time. At a structural level, inflation emerges from how money enters and moves through the economy. When new money is created, usually via bank loans, it does not distribute evenly. Those who receive money first can spend or invest before prices rise, while those receiving it later face higher costs. This is known as Cantillon effects, and it explains why inflation can feel unfair. Expectations also matter. If people anticipate rising prices, they adjust their behavior, demanding higher wages, raising prices preemptively, or investing in assets that protect against inflation, which can accelerate price increases. Central banks like the Federal Reserve attempt to control inflation mainly through interest rates. Raising rates slows borrowing and spending, while lowering rates encourages it. Yet controlling inflation depends not only on policy, but also on where money flows. Credit channeled into asset markets can inflate stocks or real estate, while credit flowing into wages and goods fuels consumer price inflation. Historically, excessive money creation, combined with supply constraints, leads to rising prices. Hyperinflation occurs when confidence in the currency collapses entirely. Ultimately, inflation is predictable in structure, but uneven in effect. By tracking money creation, circulation, and expectations, one can anticipate which sectors will see rising prices first and who will be most affected. In short, inflation is not random. It is a mechanical outcome of money creation, money flow, and economic behavior, inherently uneven but understandable. Good debt versus bad debt. Debt is often labeled as good or bad, but debt itself is not moral. It is a financial tool, and its impact depends entirely on how it is used. At its core, debt is a claim on future income. When you borrow, you bring future purchasing power into the present in exchange for an obligation to repay with interest. Good debt is debt that increases future earning capacity or generates cash flow. It is typically used to acquire productive assets, such as a business investment, income-generating real estate, or education that materially raises long-term income. Bad debt, by contrast, finances consumption. It funds goods or experiences that depreciate quickly and do not produce future income, leaving the borrower weaker over time. The key distinction is not the interest rate alone. It is whether the return enabled by the debt exceeds its cost. When returns are higher than costs, debt compounds growth. When costs exceed returns, or no return exists, debt compounds fragility. At every level, from personal finance to entire economies, debt is neither good nor bad by nature. It is directional. It either builds future capacity or it erodes it. Understanding that difference is essential to understanding how wealth is created, preserved, or destroyed. Concluding, money is not mysterious. It is not emotional. It is a system built on debt, incentives, and flow. Once you understand how that system actually works, you stop reacting to money and start positioning within it.